Hey everyone, this is the beginning of a new segment where I talk about albums that are extremely important to me, but are overlooked or are by more obscure bands that should be more well known. The first of these is about 2009's The Complexity of Light. This album is the first of two by disbanded San Diego group Children of Nova. This album is much more progressive than their second, Invisible Landscape, with a more eclectic sound and more ambitious and diverse song structures. It features the technical yet simple instrumentation of Rush, with the pop sensibilities of Coheed and Cambria, and the high-pitched vocals and a slight touch of Latin flavor from bands like Mars Volta. All these are thrown together to create a sound that's slightly familiar, but it's still very fun to listen to and full of passion, technicality, and energy. The Complexity of Light is a relatively short concept album about a man who has built a kingdom up on his own, and falls to corruption as the story progresses. Some of the themes on this album are crows, which are a symbol of death that are referenced a lot in the lyrics, along with light and eyes, particularly visions. This is even shown on the album cover, with a crow-headed figure who seems to be worshipping the sun. The story itself is pretty unclear, though, because there is very little context to base it off of, but it's most likely told from one person's perspective. It can be split into two parts by the first three songs, ending on The Fall of Aphonia and starting on Second Sight Blackout. These are also the only two songs that don't transition into each other. In the first half, the narrator mentions things such as rebuilding a nation with his bare hands and holding up this nation of free people seemingly on his own. However, he keeps getting dark visions and dreams in what he calls the second sight that are haunting and slowly corrupting him. By the second part, the narrator is totally overcome by the second sight, calling it a curse and wishing it would end. I won't spoil the last part of the story in case you wish to figure it out yourself. The Complexity of Light has some exceptional pacing and album flow. Because of the short length of this album, only around 35 minutes, every song is packed with ideas and explores a huge range of volumes, emotions, and speeds. There are slower sections with a smooth, tranquil atmosphere that sit perfectly alongside more energetic and grand sections. For example, the title track starts off the album with some hand percussion and a quick drum beat similar to Xanadu by Rush, but halfway through the song slows down with a smooth bass line and a falsetto vocal performance. Second Sight Blackout starts off with a slow and tranquil Pink Floyd-style passage that transitions into fast, complicated drum work, and finishes off with some quasi-blast beats. Every song on here has something fun and unique about it, but some songs do have weaker moments, like on The Fall of Aphonia and near the end of We Collide, the final track. As for the whole album, the first half has a much more optimistic sound to it, with bright chords and soaring vocal melodies. The last half has a much darker and more twisted sound. The occasional falsetto vocals on the first half are joined by pained shrieks and darker chords and a defeated and urgent atmosphere. The vocals definitely capture the most attention here. Teo, who does vocals and hand percussions, has three main vocal styles. He has a melodic mid-range, a high-range falsetto, and the occasional harsh shriek. They shine the most when Teo is able to hold a note for a long time over these energetic drum patterns, sort of like on the first verse of the title track, the post-chorus of Arcadian, and the chorus of We Collide. He has a very strong sense of melody and creating catchy and high-energy vocal leads, and prudently uses his falsettos in his shriek, sort of like at the end of The Order, where he complements the final verse with a shriek, or as the post-chorus of We Collide. He also knows when to step back and let other instruments shine. The drums present lots of fast and challenging patterns, such as on the title track, and Arcadian, and Second Sight Blackout, which is often complemented by a really interesting bass line. There aren't too many guitar solos on this album, but the guitar does its fair share of work, from the great staccato riff in the intro to Arcadian, to the spacey intro of The Fall of Aphonia, and the arpeggios in the chorus of We Collide. The drums and the guitars work best together on the first instrumental break of The Order, which has the most complicated rhythm on the entire album and some powerful guitar melodies. Overall, this is one of my favorite albums ever, with little to pick at aside from a couple of weaker passages and an obscure storyline without much context at all. Not only is this album short and addictive, but every song is tightly packed with everything that's good about progressive rock. There's a lot to discover here despite its short length, and if you're a fan of prog, especially bands like Rush, the Mars Volta, and Coheed and Cambria, this is a must-listen. Even if you're not huge into these bands, it's still worth listening because of the sheer density of material here. So what did you think of this album? Are you as enamored as I am with it, or do you find it a bit lackluster? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Alright, that's going to be it for this one. I'll see you guys next time.